Praise family. This is your brother Willie Muhammad, and thank you once again for tuning into another broadcast of Class is in Session. So if you're listening to us by radio or if you're listening to us online, this is a live recording, so you can call in if you have any comments or questions about what we're talking about. And that telephone number is 504-260-9265. And we're broadcasting live from WBOK, where it is real talk for real times. And you hear the chorus that comes from a Jay-Z song, and it says, y'all gonna learn today. So I hope that actually happens, because we're going to be talking about a topic today that affects us all. And we're going to be talking about relationships, the state of black male, black female relationships. And I think we all have some opinion or some position on that. And to help me with that discussion today, we have a sister in the studio with us. And I will say I first met this sister at my barbershop. And shout out to brother Mike, a.k.a. Sage of 504 Studio, right? Yeah. Studio 504, right off of Chef Mentor, and he's my barber. And always when you go in a barbershop, you're going to have some discussion about something. And this sister was here. And she was there at that time, and we had a discussion, all three of us, and I think a few other people were there, and we talked. And then on last week, I happened to be at a very powerful event that was put on it was at Ashe Culture Center, and our sister was there. And once again, her and those of us who were at the table, we started talking about the state of the black community, and we ended up talking about relationships. And I said, you know something, that would be good to come on the show and we can continue this discussion. So we have our sister Ava. Can you tell the listening audience about yourself a little bit?
Hi, I am Ava Monet, and I was in the barbershop. Just so happened I don't typically hang there, but I was bringing my friend a cup of coffee, and we had a very interesting conversation. And last week, it's the Let's Talk series. It's a series of meetings about issues that affect women's reproductive health and women's access to health care. But on this particular week, they were doing I guess since it was Father's Day, they were discussing black fatherhood and, the power of fatherhood in our communities. And that's where I guess our discussion just picked up where it left off. And, and that's how I'm here.
That's how we're here. So we're talking about relationships, and relationships and some also marriages, because everybody who's in a relationship is not married. And people may say, well, I know the listeners who listen to this radio station are going to say, why is just the focus on black? I mean, you start at home first, right? So we're definitely concerned about our community. But I believe the principles that we're going to talk about, for the most part, it transcends race and other backgrounds and things like that. But we are talking about our community. So let's get right down to it. When we talk about relationships, so what do you think, Sister Ava, about what is the state, from your view, the state of black male, black female relationships and marriages?
Well, I think, especially coming from my perspective, it's really complicated. I do know some people who are very happily married. They've been married a long time, but those are the minority of the types of relationships I see people in, my friends, my family. I think there's three different levels of it. You have people who are married. You see that 30-ish, late 30s, going in your 40s. They've been married 10 to 12 years, and, it's good. You have people like myself. I was married for 12 years. I'm divorced. And then you see people who are much older who had that 30, 40-year, 25, 30-year marriage, and then divorced, and then you find out that they were miserable the entire time. And then you also have just this large swath of us who are in in the mud of it. I don't know for a better way of describing it. They're just in the thick of trying to navigate this world of black women and black men, and how we treat each other and how we relate to each other and how we combine and how we take care of our families and how we're raising our children. And I think that makes it very complicated to talk about, the quote unquote black relationship, because you can look at it from so many different angles. But the people who I know the most are people who are of the "it's hard out here" mentality. It's hard out here, and yeah, that's what I get the most out there.
And that's real. And I think about it from my point of view. In my experience, is that pretty much like what you were saying. You have those who it appears to be working for them. You have those who are in something they're not happy, and then you have the others who are battling in regards to maintaining hope, maintaining belief. And one of the things that I think about as it relates to black male and female relationships is we're definitely in need of a re-education on how to go about it. How to go about what's the role of the man, what's the role of the woman, what's the best way we should be able to begin a relationship? What should we look for? What should we not look for? What type of work should we have done on ourselves before we actually get into the relationship? Because right now, I think that most people spend more time carefully thinking about the next designer shoe or garment that they're going to buy, or the next car they're going to buy, or what restaurant they're going to eat in. They spend more time on that than really thinking about this person and I'm about to share my essence of my being with. So what do you think?
Right. No, I completely agree. I think so little goes into, and I hate to speak in absolutes, but, so little goes into thinking about a relationship. A relationship is work, and like you say, more people give more thoughts to their outfit, where they're going to go that night, than into what am I going to do today to make this a good day in my relationship. It definitely has to be something proactive, something you work at. You can't just react when you see your relationship falling apart, and try to figure out how to fix it. It should be something that you think about beforehand, and like I said, I have to, going back to what you were saying previously, as I've gotten older, I have had not just age, divorce will do that too, but I've had a complete and total reevaluation of who I was as a woman and how I was going into relationships. In my 20s and being young, I was definitely one of those, I am woman, hear me roar, I don't need no man, I can do anything type of woman. And, as I've gotten older, I've paid more attention to things like gender roles. And, we talked about that. That's something that previously I did look at it as a weakness, but there has to be, for me at least, maybe some people can navigate that, that world, but how I've seen relationships, and I've seen so many relationships fail, of people battling out because the woman want to be the man and the man at home acting like a woman, and that's when we were talking about a redefinition of what it means, what these relationships are and what they mean. Because, and like I was saying, like we had previously had a conversation, you get frustrated when you in that you're just wandering and there's no role. Nobody's, has a determined part. This is what your role is in this relationship. And everybody's just flailing about. And it's hard for a man or a woman to meet that other person's expectations if they don't know what those expectations are beforehand. You're just figuring it out as you go. So that becomes where frustration comes in, and a lot of times frustration will lead to anger. It'll lead to resentment. If I'm mad at you because you're not doing what I need you to do, and he mad at me because he don't know what he don't know. I can't cuss. But he mad at me because he doesn't know what I need or want. Then we just sitting there mad at each other. We've never even had a conversation. And that's what it comes down to. We talked about that too. Communication. That's the most important thing.
Wow. You touched on so many points. I'm jotting them down to bring them back up. But going back to what you said about gender roles,
right.
We live in a society now, and some information that I've been reading, that the lack of acknowledgement regarding the value of having gender roles or roles based upon gender, some people who are considered as marriage or relationship experts, they're saying that that's one of the reasons why relationships are failing, because we're living in a society that is challenging gender roles,
Right.
where it's saying now, they're saying, and they're even trying to make it cool to say you can be a stay-at-home mom and a woman can go out to work. And from my experience and from what I've seen and the people that I have counseled, I have yet to meet a woman who has found permanent joy out of that, because it's something that's in a woman's nature that she's not going to be comfortable, even though she may say out of her mouth for a period of time that I'm fine with it, but she's not going to find total enjoyment and peace when she's out there working 9 to 5 and she come home and she see this man, or
Right.
supposed to be a man, and that causes trouble. But now we're living in this world where it's saying that get away from those gender roles. That's old, that's archaic, and it's destroying us.
I think so too. I couldn't possibly agree more. You know, at the end of the day, human beings, we're just another form of an animal. We're all animals, you know, and just the nature, just the animalistic nature of a woman is to be nurtured. You know, her nature is to nurture and to be nurtured. You know, you don't want to be, you know, and you don't want to go to the opposite end either. I mean, you don't need this man out there banging his chest,
Right,
you know that.
right.
But
Balance.
there needs to be some balance, and you don't want to have this man to completely dominate you either.
Right.
But you want to be in a situation where you know that my man got us. You know, he is going to lead us down, and that has a lot to do with the choices and the type of man you make. You know, you can't be with a fool and a knucklehead and then like, oh, I can't trust no man. Well, no, you can't trust yourself, because you chose this fool. You chose this knucklehead. But, you know, to know that you're in a situation, and that's just my opinion. I can't see a woman wanting to be in a situation where her man is coming to her and be like, well, baby, what's our goals? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, you want to, absolutely, he wants to take your input, but to know that this man is going to lead this relationship, is going to lead this family into prosperity, into, you know, happiness, into longevity, that this man is capable of doing that. And then he wants to know, a man should feel like when I get home, that woman is going to provide my respite. You know, I have somewhere to go, because men, especially black men, have enough to beat them down in their life outside of their home. To have to come home and to just know that all of that will be washed away when you get in, physically, literally, you know, I mean, you know, figuratively, I meant literally, that all of that will be, she is just going to wash all of that away. And when you take all that away, and you have a woman, you know, this man being beat up by the world, and she's like, well, I'm being beat up too, you know, and because y'all haven't gone into this relationship knowing that his role is to be this fighter, this leader, this provider, and her role is to be this nurturer, this backbone to support him. Y'all just in there fighting the world and fighting each other. And I don't get the point of that. I don't get the point of that.
And you said something that's so interesting in this book that I was reading. It said that women leave men when they don't feel emotionally fulfilled.
Absolutely.
And it said that men leave women when we don't feel that our actions are, and what we do for our families, or the woman in our lives, when we don't feel that our actions are appreciated or respected.
Right.
And you think about it now, most people who give advice to single women and say, when they say this is what you can do to attract masculine energy into your life in the form of a man, one of the first things I've noticed that they tell women who have that issue is to stop saying you don't want a man, or I don't need a man. Because you say, when you say that, then guess what men want to do? Men want to feel needed by women.
Right.
And here we have this environment now where most times, in this day and age now, when most times a male meets a woman or a female, she has a car. She has a job. Most of the time she's making more money than him. She has a home. So what happens is that some brothers feel like, damn, I don't have anything to give her, because as men, we feel good at being able to provide those things. But in this information that I was reading, and I think about what Minister Farrakhan said, he said that, remember, these physical things, the houses, the clothes, and the money, that satisfies women to a degree.
Right.
But he says what really satisfies them if we can be able to comfort and nurture their essence, their soul. And in this book that I was reading, the guy said that one of the ways that men can help women feel emotionally fulfilled is something as simple as just listening to them.
Yeah.
And for some men, I know that's difficult for us to understand because I didn't understand it with my wife, but it's just like just giving them ear and listen.
You know, I feel like every lesson in life can be learned from a Chris Rock comedy special. I'm so serious.
Which one? With the Everybody Hates Chris, or just his show?
His show,
stand-up comedy.
And I'm telling you, he had a joke in there about once. He was like, man, if you want your woman to be happy, just when you come home, you just say 3 words. Let her go. Let her go. Just be like, yeah, what? Huh? Told you that girl crazy.
That's
real.
real.
Yeah, that's real. Because,
that's real.
You know.
That's real.
And we were talking about this, and, you know, I just got out of a situation. And it was for that reason right there. You know, you say, and we, like when we were at the table, we talked about this. So many of our men have been instructed as to what makes you a quote-unquote good man. You know, you're a good man. You have a job. You know, look, I go to work. You know, I buy your stuff. What you know, what you want from me? I'm a good man. And then a lot of women go into things like, oh, he's a good man. When you leave one of these quote-unquote good men, it's, girl, you're crazy. That was a good man. He go to work. He paid the bills. Got a nice car. You know, that was a good man. But if you are in something completely and totally unfilled emotionally. You know, he was an introvert. He didn't like to go out. He doesn't like to do anything. That's fine. My thing was, and I'm as extroverted as they get. You know, if there's a festival on a neutral ground for no reason whatsoever, I'm going to grab me a chair and I'm going to go. But that's 2 totally different ends of a spectrum. And I think a lot of times what we do, we try to fit square pegs in round holes. You know, we try to, because somebody hits those boxes, but you have to, and that's where a lot of times where we don't do it. Self-assessment is so important. Knowing who you are as an individual, as a woman, these are the things that I need. These are the things that's not negotiable for me. And you get with this man who none of those boxes he's checking. You know, all the good man boxes he's hitting, but none of those he's checking. And he has no interest to work on it because in his mind, he's a good man.
He's a good man.
So you forcing this, and it puts us once again in these relationships where you're totally unemotionally fulfilled, and you got Fifth Ward Johnny here sending messages to your DMs, saying everything you want to hear, and now Fifth Ward Johnny looking real good. And that it's just a cycle because we don't take the time to get to know ourselves. We don't take the time to get to know these men. We just jump into these situations feet first because they checking boxes. Wow,
checking the box. So we're we got our first break, and this is Brother Willie Muhammad Classes in session. We have our sister Ava is in the building, as those hip-hop artists saying, and we're going to come back on that part talking about the checking the boxes. But this is WBOK 1230 AM, Real Talk for Real Time. We'll be back, folks. Peace.
Visit H&W Drugstore, African-American owned and operated, servicing the New Orleans community for over 50 years. Experience fast, friendly, courteous, and caring service every time. Let our knowledgeable and friendly staff take care of all your prescription needs. Same medicine, same copay, if not lower than the big box pharmacies. H&W Drugstore has 2 convenient locations to serve you. 8454 Morrison Road, inside USA Market in New Orleans East, and 1951 Barataria Boulevard, inside Budget Saver Grocery Store in Marrero. H&W Drugstore is African American owned and operated. Call us today at 504-244-3784. H&W Drugstore. Knowledgeable, friendly, and here to take care of all your prescription needs.
There's freedom at Liberty Bank. At Liberty Bank, you can now open a checking account online and gain immediate access to our many services. It's easy for you to go and keep track of your account at www.libertybank.net. You can even apply for loans or services on the go. Banking at Liberty, now 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at www.libertybank.net. Bank at Liberty. There's freedom here. And don't forget to use promo code WBOK.
Brothers at Peace presents a night of comedy and culture, part 2, starring Paul Mooney live.
This is Paul Mooney, and I'm going to be at the New Orleans Jazz Market, July 22nd. Don't walk, run. Get your tickets, because they're selling real good. I'm going to give you all kind of stuff. You're going to get some sugar. You're going to get some salt. You know you black folks love salt.
Spice up your Saturday night with the soulful sounds of Miss Karen Green, hosted by Oliver Thomas. Special guest comedians Maurice G. and Princeton Dude from St. Louis, Missouri. After the show is the after party. DJ Big O on the ones and twos. July 22nd, 8 p.m., located at the People's Health Jazz Market. Get your tickets now at eventbrite.com/Brothers at Peace. You don't want to miss.
WBOK, New Orleans.
Peace, family. We're back. This is Brother Willie Muhammad. Class is in session, coming to you live from WBOK 1230 a.m., where it is real talk from real time. So if you've been listening, you hear in the studio with me today is, I call her Sister Ava. She's been laying it down. Before the break, she was talking about how sometimes as women and men, we get caught up into this good man is because he's able to be a provider, you know, the typical things that society says. And I will go even further to say, as men, we do that. Or she's a good woman because she cooks. She's a good woman because she can rear children. She's a good woman because she keeps the house clean. That's a start. But what else can she do, right?
And you know what? I have a whole problem with this. I blame Neo. All of this, you know, I want an independent.
Ooh,
you know, like,
yeah.
I can't stand that to me. And don't get me wrong. Women should be independent. A woman should not need a man, have to rely on a man for anything.
Right.
But to me, what does that say about you as a man? If you looking out there, these men are just as bad as the women are in the club. Now, oh, look what car she driving. Look at this, look at that. You know, you are out here, you looking for a woman who have her own car and she have her own house and she have her own stability. What she need you for?
Exactly.
You know, not saying that she should need you for the financial aspect of that.
Right.
But as a man, you should be going into a relationship thinking about how I'm going to build and provide for and with this woman, not wondering financially what she bringing to the table.
And you know something, when you think about it, when you hear a male, you know, that's talked about before, I believe there's a difference between a man and a male. When you hear a male saying stuff like that, she has to have her own. What he's really saying is that I want her to have her own because that means that's the less she has to ask me for.
Right.
And I don't care. This world has deceived us into thinking that that's okay.
Right.
But for males who think that way, we will never earn her respect.
Right.
We will never earn her, basically her respect and ultimately her love. And then even as a male, you will never feel good. You know what I'm saying? You'll never feel good knowing that you can't bring anything to the table. But this world I grew up where this world is manufacturing males like that and telling them that's what manhood is. So
Right.
then they get into a home where a woman is shouldering the large portion of the responsibility, and then they want to cry and say she don't respect me. Well, why should she respect you when she's carrying
Right.
your role?
Right. because you went in looking at what she had and not so much who she was. You know, and women do it too. We look at what he has and not who he is. And I know this is venturing off into another, but like we said at the table, and I don't care if people have a problem with this. It's the honest truth to me. That's because so many of our men are being raised by single female-headed households. I know it, and that's what it is. Nobody can tell me differently because, like I said, a woman can raise a good person. She can raise a great individual on her own, but she cannot raise a man to be a man. She cannot raise him. All of the characteristics that make a woman, she's going to impart that into him, and that's going to come out in his personality. I heard a man say one time something to the effect of, "Oh, I keep taking these girls out on first dates. They using me, this, that, they ain't gonna be using me." I can hear a woman telling her son, "So you better not be letting them girls use you. Don't be letting them." Whereas if he had a man and he was sitting there and his dad was showing him how to tie a tie in the morning, he could be imparting on him these lessons of manhood. Take your woman out. You know, take her on a date. If you're interested in a girl, you know, you have to court her. You have to woo her. These are the things. This is what I did to get your mama. You know, but all of that's been eliminated. So you have these women teaching boys, their sons, don't let them use you. You ain't got to pay for that. Why is she not splitting it with you? And it just becomes a generational, because she out here dating men and she taking him. I was at Texas Roadhouse the other day. I see them sitting there. The bill come. He like, all right, I'm going to take the food to the car. And she's sitting there paying. You know, and it becomes generational. You seeing your mama do it. You teaching it to your daughters. You teaching it to your sons. And it has to stop. It has to stop.
And, you know, in regards to that, what's interesting is that some of these women, mothers, end up raising their sons to be the type of man that they despise. And because of their pain, they don't realize what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? And you're right. And that's a painful truth that some of our community don't want to accept, but that's real, is that you can't make that. You can't raise these boys like that. At some point, you have to allow him to develop to where he begins to start developing that masculine side. And I also teach in the school system, and I see that. I see young boys who don't do well in school. They get an F, but their mama goes out to buy them the most expensive pair of shoes that I can't even pronounce. I've seen their mother try to justify why their son is doing this and not doing that. Right. And what they don't realize is what you're doing is that you're enabling him. Right. So then he never gets out of the nest, and now you have a 40-year-old man staying with you in your home. But you share some responsibility to that. Right. And a lot of times, you know, some of them do that because they feel like, if I'm going to give him everything that I need, everything that he wants, so I can protect him from the streets.
Right. And
you end up losing them you still end up losing them.
Right. And I see it, and it manifests itself in so many different ways. Like, women are more emotional than men. Women are emotional. And if you take the aggression and the physicality of a man and you put that with the emotion of a woman, you get what's happening in these streets. You get men who don't have any conflict resolution skills because they're at their house and they see their mamas and their sisters and their grandmas all day long. Whereas if there was a father in that home, a lot of times he'd be, y'all shut that noise up. You know, a man will put his foot down. I don't want to hear all that. You know, or, you know, we better not fuss in here. Daddy he don't like to hear all that. Or, you know, if you have a man and he's out there and he cutting grass and he get into it with his neighbors, he could see them say, those two men, man, bro, I'm going home. This ain't all that. Instead of the two women out there screaming and hollering and fighting, now you have this man who sees that and thinks that this is the proper way to handle a dispute. So you put that mentality with the testosterone and aggression of a 17-year-old boy, and you have a recipe for disaster. And what that all goes back to, again, is women and men not being able to, and even if you can't make it work, and if you can't get married and you have a baby with someone, you know, like me and my ex-husband, we have 2 kids. Is he my favorite person in the world? No. But we talk almost every day, and we come together. I send him a shout out for Father's Day because I can acknowledge the fact that he's a great father. My children are with me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're with him Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because that's important to me. When little girls need fathers in their life, they need to see how to be treated. They need to see him. He lives with someone now. He needs to see how he's treating her. You know, they need to see that. They need to be exposed to that because what they're exposed to now is not the norm. It's not right. It's not real.
Right. And you know, there's a brother I know, Dr. Wesley Muhammad. He's been doing a book. He wrote a book, but he's also been doing lectures talking about the attack on black male masculinity. And he's talking about, if you look in regards to what's taking place with the hip hop, you see some of these rappers who they're wearing dresses, they're wearing tight pants, but they're talking about this is the new masculinity, like, yo, and you're seeing this, right? And now they're wearing purses. And all of this is an attack, and you're now having young boys who, if they're raised in an environment where the father is not present and they don't have a real idea of what manhood is, they go to the streets or they turn to the TV and the music to try to get an idea of manhood, what manhood is. And when I was coming up, you know, my father left my family when I was about to be 13 years of age. So I said, I have to be a man. I looked into the streets and got a negative attitude, a negative idea. Yeah. I looked into the radio, and for a period of my life, I went through that thinking this is what a man was. And what a man was to me was one who slept with a lot of females, who had a reputation in the neighborhood and had some money in his pocket. And I know the way you get money in your pocket in the hood is by selling crack, right? And it wasn't until I heard a clip of I saw a clip of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, not a clip, a part of a lecture he was giving at Southern University where he said something, and after he said it, I said, that's what a man is. And that began to start transforming my life. But there are a lot of young brothers that are out here, their idea of what a man is what some rapper has said, right? And oftentimes with some of these hip-hop artists, and I like hip-hop, some of them are in the same condition as well. But the thing that makes them different is that they have a talent and they have a talent that has allowed them to be before the world. But inwardly, they are still suffering. And I'll make this last comment. I was watching an interview by Tupac Shakur with the light-skinned brother who was on BET. And Tupac had basically said, he said, man, you know why my manner is the way it is? He said, because I grew up without a father. And he connected everything back to that. Yeah. Everything back to that. So we're talking about a lot. We talked about, you mentioned expectations, right? Yeah. And so what is it that causes men and women to be in a relationship where we get upset when our expectations are not fulfilled, but we don't take the time to look within ourselves and say, one, maybe I didn't clearly express my expectations. Maybe I expressed them, but they were not clear exactly what I wanted. Or three, maybe I just didn't express them at all, and I just assumed that this person will understand what he or she needed to do. What do you think causes that?
I think that's a big one, and I mean, I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of that as well. There is a rash of, well, he should know this, going around.
He should know this.
Yeah, like, well, he should have known that, and I do feel that. And that's a hard one for me, because there's certain things that I feel in a relationship should be common sense. That should just be, you should just know better. But you have to realize, and I have to think back of what we just talked about, where they're coming from. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't know. To me, I shouldn't go through the day without hearing from my man. That's not acceptable, but maybe he don't know. And to let him know ahead of time, well, look, this is what I expect of you. This is what, and if I don't receive that, I will be disappointed. This is the, penalty or the reaction from not receiving that. So expectations need to be clearly stated. But a lot of times we get very uncomfortable in having conversations.
That's right. That's another part you mentioned.
It's like if I lay out my expectations beforehand. Now, this is the crazy part. I fully expect him to meet those expectations. But if I actually state them, maybe he'll have a problem hearing them and will have some sort of Mike told me don't talk like this, but some sort of trepidation with that. I can't think of another word to use, but he'll have some sort of problem. He'll have an issue.
But I'll tell you this, what works for men, I read this article some years ago, and it said that men are not hunters, we're hunters.
Right.
And one of the things that I would suggest, that if there's a woman who lays out her expectations, that with each of those expectations, it would help. I'm telling you, it would be helpful for men if you could say, here are 5 ways you can meet this expectation.
Right.
Here are 3 things you can do to meet this expectation. Because with us, it can stop the guessing game. Like we don't, man, I wonder if she wants me to do this. I wonder if she would like this. It will help us. And then after a while, when we have the expectations, we've been given some ideas of what we can select from to do. And as we begin to do those things, we'll begin to start learning, oh, these are the type of things that she likes, right? Because sometimes what males end up doing is we bring what we have experienced and what has worked for us in previous relationships, and we think it's going to work with her.
Right.
And it doesn't. You feel what I'm saying?
And I think a lot of times what we do is, like, if we're afraid to lay out the expectation that he may not accept it, but also you have to be willing, if he's saying, you know what, I'm not going to do that, you have to be willing to walk away.
Yes.
Because if you know that expectation not being met is going to put you in some type of way, you have to be able to say, that's not the guy for me.
Exactly.
You know,
that's what many people are afraid to do.
Right. You don't want to walk away because it's like he's checking the boxes.
Right.
And we put into ourselves, especially as women, well, he gonna change for me.
Right.
You know, I'm gonna
That
be
ain't
able to.
happening.
I'm good. You know, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna put him on it. Whatever. You know, in your mind, you think you're either gonna love him enough or whip it on him enough or whatever that what he's sitting here telling you he not gonna do. You're gonna be able to convince him to do.
And they give you this analogy, a brother of ours, because you know I often organize when I meet brothers who can share information. I often try to get that brother to speak to other brothers that I know to teach this to them too, so we can lessen these amount of mistakes. And he was talking to brothers. He said, if you're complaining about your wives, he said, you may have been, like he said, you can't expect a chicken to do what an eagle can do.
Right.
And he said, so you got to know what you're actually working with. And that's what we don't take the time to do.
Right.
Most of the time is the sex good? She look fine. She got a little something. She got a little money, and that's when I'm going to roll. But we never really get the opportunity to know people. You know what I'm saying? So we talked about communication. I often hear people say, communication is key. Communication is key. And one of the things I asked him, I said, if you as a single person know that communication is a foundational stone for success in a marriage or a relationship, or if you as a married person, when was the last time you read something or watched something or attended a seminar that taught you how to improve your communication?
Right.
And most people say, man, I haven't. So, like, it's a gap. Communication is key. Then that's what I need to be working on. You see what I'm saying?
Right. No, you're absolutely right. I feel like as a couple, like when I've been in relationships, it's very important for me, but I'm just this type of person. I like it on a job or anything. I like a good assessment. I like a good 90-day, you know, like, what's it called at your job in 90 days and they do the rating. But, you know, I love a good assessment, you know, so I want to know, you know, how you doing? You know, how are you doing? What is going on here? Is there anything that I do that bothers you? Is there anything that I can do to make this better? But people are afraid of those type of conversations because if you say something, then you got to do it.
And some people are afraid to tell people, this is what I think you need to work on.
Right.
So let's say we got a caller on the line. Who's this? Peace.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is Coleman. Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, thank you for calling in, my brother.
Yeah, look, let me bring it back to you. I'm gonna lay a little foundation. 70 years old, seven children, and 12 grandchildren, 2 great grandchildren. Now, look, you could start paying attention to this here because I have. See, we know we agreed children do need a dad or a male figure somewhere close to the home because it does make a difference with children coming up. for role models. Now, this is a little personal. The young men that I'm going to say younger than me that I've seen, they're finicky because they pay attention to their mothers. They really didn't learn how to fist fight because dad is teaching them how to fist fight. And this is one of the reasons why they quick to shoot, because they can't fist fight. But also, I'm going to bring something else to you. You see more men in the street, well, I'm going to take it back. You see more males in the street wearing slippers. That was not something that we did, wear slippers out the house. Another thing you have seen men wear T-shirts that's below their butt line. When they go to the bathroom, they got to pull their T-shirt up to pee. That's a feminine thing when you wearing your shirt long. It's trying to be a fad, but it's effective the masculinity that it's almost look like a slip as compared to a shirt.
Yes, sir. And
another point I'm gonna make: when males come from female, I'm gonna say homes, and the female herself, she have a tendency to castrate a man. He have a penis, but he don't have no balls, because she is not gonna let him stand up to her, because she saw the way her mother handled the men in the mother life.
Right.
And the other point I'm gonna make is that when you lack backbone as a male, it makes you kind of finicky. You see it a lot in the example you made about paying the bills and stuff.
And that's
the guys, they go looking for
women who can do that.
Girlfriend is like the mama that's gonna take care of them. They got men who can't even shop for themselves.
Right. And let's get our guest helping. We thank you for all of those points, my brother. And we're gonna use those to add to the discussion that we're having. But we really appreciate it. And let's see, Sister Ava, what do you have to say about that?
No, I agree. He made a good point. He had a good point as far as like the dynamic in a household. When you have a household led by women, and you have a son, a boy in the home, and there's no male in the home, nobody ever stands up to that woman. Nobody puts their foot down. You don't see that back and forth, that give and take. So it does give him, if, you can't stand up to your mom, so if you're like, no, you're going to get slapped, so it never gives that man an opportunity to see a positive interaction between men and women where that woman has to back down. They don't get to see that. So in their mind, they go to screaming and hollering a lot of times, and that woman has never been in a position where she has to back down to a man. So when we go into a lot of these houses, and domestic violence is huge. It is huge in our community. It is huge in this city. I think Louisiana is one of the worst states. Matter of fact, I know Louisiana is the worst states as far as, benchmarks of life and prosperity for women. It's one of the most dangerous places to be as a woman. He doesn't know how to interact with that woman and handle his hostility, his aggression. And he just had a good point with that, because, and I don't want to say she castrates him. I guess you can put it like that. But this man does not know how to have that type of interaction with a woman where he's going to put his foot down in a firm but fair way.
Right. And, and I'll take it another step further in regards to historically and different things like that. That like there's this in the Bible, in the book of Exodus, there was this part where Pharaoh saw the children of Israel growing, and one of his plans was to counter that. He said, kill the male and spare the female. So some of our women are put in a position where their masculine side has been developed because they needed it in order to survive. And so now it's just on autopilot. And so they've been handling things for themselves for so long, and here this guy coming through and say, I got it, and she's just not willing to release it like that, because other people have told me they got me. So as men, it's important for us to understand that atmosphere, that we have to know that, listen, then most of these women who I'm going to meet, I'm going to have to prove myself. That it's foolish for me to enter into a relationship just thinking off the back that, hey, she going to know I'm this dude, I got to know. So we need to enter into that to say, I'm going to prove to her that I'm not like the other ones that damaged her heart.
Right.
I'm going to prove to her that she can depend on me. Or like Martin, this character said, if I tell you a duck can pull a truck, hook it up. Jerome Rohn said that, right? So what other thoughts do you have just about this whole, being, as you say, single, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the sentiment of single women? Like the other single women that you talk about, are they tired? Are they losing hope? Are they still optimistic?
Well, I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
Like I told you that at the table.
Yeah.
I said I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
Like that event was so encouraging
Mm-hmm.
because I got to see another element that I don't typically get to see.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very encouraging. It was like a little gasoline in your tank.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but I was on E.
Mm-hmm. That's real.
Yeah, it was, no, seriously. I was married for a very long time. I was in this relationship for a long time. I'm cute. I'm nice looking.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought. I thought, I'm going to get divorced. It's going to be so easy. I'm going to find somebody. It is very hard out here.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, I contributed to some of that, some of my lifestyle choices. Like, you're not gonna find a diamond in the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times that's what we do. Like, I'm not saying you can't find a man in your dreams at Brandy's, but probably not.
I don't know what Brandy's is.
Okay, case in point, on AP2 Road.
Okay,
one
of those spots.
One of them spots, I probably won't find a man of my dreams in Bertha's, but, so that's some of the things I needed to work on,
Finding, looking in the right places.
Right.
Now, I know some brothers, like within my religious community, there's this thing is called courtship, right? And I know a brother who has approached several single sisters, and they talked about how them being ready, but they weren't ready. And some brothers feel that some of the single sisters are overlooking good men.
And we may be. I know I probably. And you know what? There's this idea, this notion out there about, women, particularly black women, they only want dogs, they only want thugs, they only want people that treat you wrong. But if there's a quote unquote, good man, and he doesn't just check the boxes, he's really nice, he's really kind, and you're just not attracted to him, you can't make that work.
Right, I understand.
And women are the only ones that are expected to settle. You're not going to see no nice-looking man with no 500-pound woman because she's a good woman. Men aren't expected to do that, but women are expected. Look, if you find a good man, you better hold on to him.
Right.
It don't matter if he's a creature out the Blue Lagoon. You better hold on to him because you don't know how long it's going to be for another one. Well, you want somebody you're attracted to,
That's
too.
True.
You
That's
want
true.
somebody who you have a connection with. Women like a man with a little swag,
yeah, some confidence.
You like that.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because what I'm going to tell you another from the male standpoint, what I'm also noticing that's taking place as well, and is part of this demasculine. Remember I'm saying that right? This demasculization of men, right? Black men in particular. I'm noticing that some males lack the confidence to approach a woman that they feel is attractive, because they feel, one, she probably got somebody, which for most of the cases is not, shockingly.
Right.
And two, they feel like she's not gonna be interested in me. And so you have that situation where, so much so, like one of the morning national radio stations here in the city, they do this thing called Shoot Your Shot.
Yeah.
And before that, they're like encouraging the male most of the time, like, this is how you go at her. Because some of the brothers are feeling like, man, she probably have somebody.
I feel you couldn't have said anything more true. It surprised me, as I've really gotten out here into this dating world, how many men, and a lot of them have been good men, have been like, you would have never been interested in me. And especially like, I went to my 20-year reunion, my 20-year high school reunion, and it was coming out the woodwork. I look good for 20 years later. And, they were like, oh, my God, I was crazy about you in high school, but why you didn't say nothing? You would have never liked me. And still, that carries to this day.
To this day.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that, but and that's something that we have to break. And And I'm the type of person, I don't find comfort just talking about problems. I want to do something. So one of the things that's being put on my spirit is to, hold some type of discussions where we can all get together and talk. Just talk. And I'm talking about something as simple as everybody write some topics down we want to discuss. We put them in a bowl. Somebody pull it out. What you say? Let's just have a discussion. We may find things that we agree upon, some stuff we don't agree upon, but let's just have the discussion, because that having the discussion is healthy as well. So, as a single woman, what advice or what would you tell single men who are out here who thinking that having that issue, like what would you tell? I don't just want to ask you what advice would you give single women, like what would you tell single men who apprehensive or whatever,
Well, I mean, I wouldn't know. It's hard being a man, because I tell you one thing, I couldn't go up to the woman, hey, how you doing? What's your name?
Oh, see, that's part of it.
I couldn't.
You just gave him a way out.
You
just gave him a way out.
Because I have a fear of rejection. I'm going to go somewhere. And then women can be harsh. Women can be mean. No, thank you. Women can be harsh. So I don't know how men do it, because I couldn't.
Well, let me see. One of the things, like with my wife, who I've been married to going on for 17 years, I thought more about it that I would rather face a rejection than to live my life facing a regret that I didn't try.
Right.
So, no. You've been told no before. Just try.
Yeah.
Now,
but with women, I will say this. It is so important. Number one, do not be afraid to be alone. Have some peace within yourself. Do not be afraid to be alone. And I know it sucks. Going to bed at night by yourself sucks. Get a dog. Don't be afraid. It's better to get a dog than be with a dog.
Say that. You need to meme that.
Yeah, I'm telling you. You sitting there, you're either going to lay next to an actual dog or a figurative dog. And don't be afraid to be alone. Because so many times we take so much less than what we deserve because we don't want to be by ourselves.
But let me tell you the beautiful thing about that. Do you know overcoming that fear is what opens up the gates to attract the person to you?
Yeah.
That's crazy how that works, but it does. When you would say that I am good, I am whole, I am valuable, even if I don't have, quote unquote, a man in my life or a woman in my life. And then, like that song, How Did We Get There? That's when they end up coming. But because really it's like, how is it that we are so bad by ourselves that we don't want to be alone, but we want somebody else to accept a part of us that we don't want to address? So, and that's the part. So like with sisters, first work on loving yourself. Go see the world by yourself. Go to the movies by yourself. Don't be afraid, and you'll begin to start finding that person. I talked to Sister prior to us coming on. I said, this is something we're going to have to do once a month. We're going to figure out how to do it, because I know some of the shows are pre-recorded, but our sister has a wealth of insight and perspective. And we thank her for coming on the show. How can people, if you're on social media, right? You cool with giving your your Instagram?
Sure.
And Facebook, right?
Sure. It's Miss Ava 504. It's MSAVA 504, and Ava AVA Gray GRAY on Facebook.
On Facebook.
I don't know how to snip or snap or none of that. So I'm sorry. I missed that generation. My bad.
Well, we're going to be doing this once a month. We're going to be bringing some challenging topics, right? I know you built for us. So thank you. Thank you, Jazz. Thank you, WBOK. This is Brother Willie Muhammad closing out. Class is in session. Real talk for real time. We look forward to seeing you all, hearing from you all on next week. Thank you. Peace.
Y'all gon' learn today. Y'all gon' learn today. Y'all gon' learn today. Y'all gon' learn.